Welcome back to The Oddity Shop, you little oddballs, the podcast where we
tell you creepy, odd, weird, strange, and bizarre stories from around the world.
I'm your curator, Kara, and this is the greatest co-host / curator, Zachary, that's ever lived.
The greatest Zachary that's ever lived. I want that written on my tombstone one day.
Okay. Side note, do you see something right here? Like somebody? Have you been seeing something?
No.
Okay.
No. Are you seeing something?
Yeah, I keep seeing it. I saw it the whole time I was recording, like the last episode, like a shadow right here.
Are you sure it's not your skeleton?
No. It's on my blinds. Like it's literally in this big open.
It's not the tree that's out there, because when I stay in the room next to that one, sometimes the shadow of that tree creeps me out.
You don't have a tree.
Or the bush or something, maybe. I don't know. There's something.
There. No, there's nothing there. This is like I'm seeing like a.
You got a little friend.
I do have a little friend. I was just wondering if we'll keep an eye on over there.
Oh yeah. Well, now I'm gonna have to look. I don't know. I'll have to watch when I edit it because it comes so blurry. But then it gets really clear.
Okay, you guys. Maybe Patreons will get my little ghosty back there. Okay. Anyway, that was a random. Sorry. What's new, boo-boo?
So, remember how I told you that grass was doing really well? It did not. So, like, 2/3 of it took great. And the spot that was the most shaded, you would have thought, like, would have been protected, totally washed away. We just got so much rain when I left. I'm glad I cleaned up the entire yard to come back to have to do it all again.
Yeah, but can you imagine if you didn't clean up the yard? It would have been just 10 times worse, though.
Oh, my God, it would have. Dude, it was, like... We pulled up to the house and I was literally embarrassed.
You was like, oh, we white trash.
Oh, yeah. No, we definitely had a different look than the rest of the neighborhood. But it's okay. I got it cleaned up today. It's fine. But a bunch of spiders came in the house, too.
Oh!
Yeah. Don't leave our house for like 13 days or however long I was gone.
I don't know. I felt like you were gone forever, but then also I had just such a bad time, like a hard time, not because you were gone.
It was like, because I was gone.
Well, probably.
At least that's what I tell myself.
Talk to you though, you know, so it does.
Right. Can't vent it out.
But I had just a really hard time. So the day that you came back, when you said just landed in Detroit, I internally panicked because I was like, how did 2 weeks go? I kind of was like freaking out, like, oh my God. I thought I had like another 5 days before you got back. Not that I needed more days, but it was just weird.
It just went fast.
It was so weird.
Well, I can't wait till the next time I see you because I have like a bag of goodies for you. And I'm excited about some of them. Some of them are just like your typical souvenir kind of stuff that you like have to do. But I am very excited about one part of it. So I think you're going to like it. One part? Well, it's like 3 things from one place, but that's all I'm telling you for now. Okay. Little teaser. Little teaser.
Oh, I do have something to tell you.
Ooh.
Delilah got a stroller, and it's the best thing ever. Because
is it one of the ones like you zip them in or just sits in?
You can zip her all the way in, but she just sits in and it can be open, but she gets clipped in so she can't jump out. For those that don't know, my wonderful baby fucking hates walks since the day she was born. She is a pretty princess, and she wants to be carried everywhere.
Yeah, she needs a carriage. Okay.
So I love to go for walks, and it's really hard because I feel so guilty coming home from work and then going for like an hour walk and leaving her here. It's just like parent guilt.
Yeah, but she would hate it.
I know, but like she likes it if you take her into like woods and trails. Totally fine. If you're just going for a damn walk, absolutely not. So I bought her this stroller. Aaron's like, she's going to hate that. I said, no, she's not. I know my child. She's going to fucking love it because she loves the swing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the same concept. You're just like, kind of like, you know?
Yeah.
So I put her in it and I stroll all around the house.
She gets to be the center of attention. Of course,
and I just walked her all around the house and she fucking loved it. So I walked her the driveway, loved it. So I'm like, cool. So then the next day I'm like, we're going for a walk. So me and Aaron did some yard work and then we went for a 2.5-hour walk. We walked like 4 miles. We walked everywhere. We walked through all these neighborhoods and we went to Tracy and Gary's house. We stopped and saw her grandpa. Literally just saw an orb where I just, okay.
You do have a little friend today. Mm-hmm.
So I took her to see her grandpa. Then we walked all the way, not that you would know, but like to where our old house was across the street, because that's the where Aaron's grandma lives, the little old folks home. Then we strolled right on into the little old folks home, and all the old people were like, "Oh my God, Delilah!" Then Tracy was there doing her grandma's laundry. So then we went up and saw Tracy and did laundry, and then we walked all the way home, and it was glorious. And then it's poured ever since, and I haven't been able to take her again.
Yeah, it's been super rainy.
It's awful. But Delilah has a stroller now, and it's so much fun.
And everything's getting green. It's perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Even though today was cold.
Oh, yeah, it was a little on the chilly side, but it's supposed to be like in the 70s all next week.
Yep.
Okay. What else you got for me?
That's it. You got a question?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Can you, and if you want to share it, you can, if you don't want to, but can you think of a moment where it's like a bunch of random unrelated events turned into something that you just can't explain?
It's not that I don't want to share, but I just can't think of anything, but I feel like that's our lives. This happens to us like weekly.
It's always so weird though, and like jarring when you kind of start to put all the pieces together.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I can think of one major thing, but right now I just really can't.
Well, if it comes to you, and I'm sure you already will, but just interrupt me.
Oh my God. It's not going to come to me, but I feel like I know where we're going with this.
You might or you might not. I've given you the slightest teaser of this. This is something that even I wasn't expecting.
Well, I don't know. I'm just going off of, I think, like from your trip and what you kind of stumbled upon, but then I don't really know anything else. I'm assuming.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So it is from my trip. And I'm going to caveat this one before we even start of the fact that it is going to be a different episode for the Oddity Shop, of the fact that it's like there is a little bit of a mystery and a cover up in here, but it's not really ghosts. It's not really haunting. It's not any of that. It is just the weirdness of all these seemingly unrelated things that led me into a story that I never knew. Okay.
This is what the Oddity Shop is. It's whatever weird things happen.
And it's going to be like super personal, but also just strange. So I told you a lot about my vacation. I did not tell you this whole story, though, because I wanted to just share it with you. And after I talked to Mom and made sure she was cool with me sharing the story.
Oh, okay.
I decided I have to do an entire episode.
Okay, so, Denise.
One of the stops on the cruise was so we did 2 days in Paris. One was on this like little beach town. It was amazing. It was just like a seaside beach place. It was the only day the weather was like in the 80s. But the other day was in the port of Le Havre, which is 2 hours from anything you could do. So it's in the Normandy region of France, and you could so we had 10 hours at the port. Okay. One of the things you could do was take a 2-hour bus ride into Paris. And then you spend like 4 hours there to take a 2-hour bus ride back. Like that would have just been literally the biggest tease. So me and Julia were looking for other excursions, and we booked off the ship a 10-hour tour of the D-Day site in Normandy.
Right, which is
heavy. Yeah. So obviously
in 10 hours?
10 hours. So it was an hour and 40-minute drive each way.
Oh, okay.
And then there were 4 stops, so there was a little bit of driving in between. It did not feel like 10 hours. It flew by. But yeah, we went back and forth. We're like, no, we're going to feel really teased about Paris. And we're both kind of like history nerds anyway. So we decided to book it.
Paris really doesn't do anything for me.
I've never heard anybody who went and they're like, came back and was like, oh my God, it's great. Everyone always says it was really dirty, but the Eiffel Tower was cool.
Yeah, that's literally all I ever hear. Okay.
So we booked this, and we booked this months and months ago. Okay. There's 4 stops on the tour. The first one is Le Cam, which is the German war cemetery. So there's like a bunch of cemeteries out there, which is interesting that they have the German war cemetery since they were the baddies, obviously. Then the next stop was at Pointe du Hoc, which is the German artillery site up on the cliffs that overlook Omaha and Utah Beach, which is where the D-Day invasion occurred.
Okay.
And then we did 2 stops along Omaha Beach. That was where like all the U.S. troops came in near the tail end of the war. That's what really turned and helped like liberate Europe and really beat back the German forces, right? And that's how the Allies won the war. It's the largest seaborne invasion in history. And then the 4th place was listed as the Saint Laurent Cemetery in Colleville-sur-Mer, which we're like, cool, cemetery at the end. I didn't know the other name for this is the Normandy American Cemetery, which has 9,400 soldiers from World War II, and they're all American soldiers.
Right. And this is all you really told me.
Right. So I booked that like a couple of weeks before we went. Months after we booked this, I was telling my parents about where we were going, like all the stops and everything. And so I told them about the Normandy. I go, and we're stopping at this place called St. Laurent. And Mom goes, wait.
Is it St. Laurent or St. Laurent?
It's probably St. Laurent. There are going to be a lot of French words
It's
today.
Okay. Listen, I get to help you once in every 500 episodes.
Yes.
But it's St. Laurent.
And especially since I was in France and heard everybody speaking so beautifully, I know I'm not going to do great.
Oh, so beautiful.
Oh, God. So I told Mom, though, about where we're going. And, Mom's been doing the Ancestry.com thing for forever, right? So she goes, wait, I'm pretty sure we have family buried there. Your grandma's cousin.
That's wild.
Okay. So she sends me this card, and I'm going to give you all the photos and videos for this episode. Okay. So I'll show you it now. It's a card. You probably can't see it that well, but it's basically a info card of where in the cemetery he's buried.
Oh, okay. Yep. Like the plot or whatever.
Yes. So it has his service number, and it says Permanent Cemetery, St. Laurent. But down below it, it says temporary cemetery, and it has all the plot. So I know the information I have is not where he was actually buried because he hadn't been moved yet.
Gotcha.
And his name is John McGowan.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, maybe you're related to Rose McGowan.
I don't know that.
Yes, you do.
Help me.
Tatum Riley from Scream.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I should have known. But I am related to not Rose, but Lily McGowan, who turns out to be John McGowan's mother.
Okay.
So a different flower. So anyways, though, right, I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Like, I'm going to take the photo of that. And like, while we're out there, something to do, I'll go see if I can find his plot in the cemetery, right? I had no idea the rabbit hole this would send me down.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So we start the tour. The tour guide was great. He was kind of a sassy Frenchman. And the way there, so it was an hour and 40 minutes. He does kind of go through all of the end of World War I through the D-Day invasion. Like, so much history. Admittedly, I did fall asleep for a little bit of it. I know. But it was really cute too, because
were you standing? Walking?
It was a coach. It was a bus.
Oh, you were on
the bus ride there.
Oh, the bus
hour
ride
and 40-minute ride there.
Okay.
So he knows this must happen though, because he then turns on all the lights when they're about a half hour out and starts playing the song "Wake Up, Little Susie." And he goes, "For everyone who slept through the rest of this is when the tour starts to get good."
That's hilarious.
So he starts then when we're getting close to the German cemetery, which, like, really cool that the French made it, because obviously Germans weren't that great. And this place has a big mound in the middle, which is a mass grave. And then it'll have like these volcanic stone tombstones, and they're 5 crosses. Okay. And under every set of 5 crosses is 400 bodies. Oh. And it looks like a really ancient cemetery, and it was like super cold and gray. It was just like, it was very fitting. So that was Lacam. Then we went up to the Point du Hoc, which is where like the Germans had the big howitzers that they would fire like across 15 miles, and they were taking out the ships that would have come in to the Normandy beaches.
Okay.
So this is the part where the Americans had to like scale up 100-foot cliffs into machine gun fire and take out the artillery before the invasion could actually happen. And you can walk through like the German bunkers and the casemates where it was all. And the crazy thing is like, this place is crater filled from all the artillery. And because it's on top of a cliff, that you can only go there for about 10 or 15 more years, it's been slowly eroding.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the history is just receding.
Oh my God, that's really weird.
Then we got back on the bus and we went to Omaha Beach, which is like the beach. Have you seen Saving Private Ryan?
Forever ago. I couldn't even say anything about it.
The beginning 25 minutes of that's just all absolutely horrific, of everyone storming the beach into mortar shells and machine gun fire, and like thousands of troops die in a half an hour.
Maybe I haven't actually seen all of it, but...
Well, that's D-Day, right?
Yeah.
in your head, like you read about it in history books and everything. And we're pulling up and it's a little beachside town and people are walking their dogs on the beach and there's like a little French bachelorette party. And they do have all these monuments and like reminders, but it's just, for me, I was like, it was the first two places were so somber. And the third place, it just felt really lively. And me and Julia were talking about it. We were like, well, one, if France really honored all their World War II sites, they wouldn't have anything that they could live in.
Yeah.
And two, it's like, do we really want to let them win? Like it was a beautiful beach before the war.
Right.
That was really popular.
It's tough.
It was really interesting. So the securing of the beach, though, right? Horrific. So 34,000 American troops came in the first wave, 160,000 Allied troops all together, storm across mines, obstacles, machine gun fire. Like, it's just horrible, horrifying. And that was where the U.S. entered into World War II. Then and they gave us lunch there, and like they had like handmade desserts and stuff. It was really cute.
Oh.
So then we went into the St. Laurent Cemetery, which is the Normandy American Cemetery. Okay. This was like pulling up to the Arlington National Cemetery in DC. So we saw the German one, which looked like really not run down, but it was just really like a classical old cemetery. This place is immaculate. Like the grounds are the greenest grass you've ever seen. It's on the cliffs overlooking the beach. There's thousands upon thousands of marble crosses, or for the Jewish who were buried there, they had the Star of David instead of the cross. Reflection pools, giant statues, like manicured hedges. It's breathtaking. So we're pulling up there, and it was like every stop, like he'd give us some more history and then let us go free roam for like a half hour or whatever.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And then we get back on the bus. So we're pulling up here and he goes, okay, so we're going to do an hour here. So, everyone, we're going to go in this entrance over here. You can walk around the cemetery. I'm like, oh, cool. We'll be able to go find John's plot,
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, nobody on the bus has family buried here, right? I raise my hand and go, oh, I do. He goes, you need to go to that building over there.
Okay. Like information or like?
It is a like stone building with floor to ceiling glass windows that looks insane.
Okay.
And I kind of hesitated at first. I was like, oh, we'll just like walk around and find it. Like, you need to go to that building over there.
You got orbs behind you now, boo boo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
what's happening?
We walk in through a security checkpoint.
Okay.
Like the hottest Frenchman I've ever seen too at this security checkpoint.
Oui.
So then it is like, this place is ornate. Okay. So they like, sir, if you would step up to the desk, we'll get some information from you. And it's like, these people are dressed like very fancy.
Oh, okay.
And
were you nervous?
I was. And here's the thing. I only found out about my family member being buried there a few weeks before it went.
I just mean like, because it's so like upscale.
It was very official.
Yeah. And you're just like, what the heck's happening?
And I like, not imposter syndrome, but I was almost like, there's a lot of people who come here for like really, like grandpa died here, or, this or that. So, and Julia came with me.
I don't think it's imposter syndrome though, because you're taking a tour about the history as it is. And then you happen to like have a family member that's buried there. I get where you're coming from though. Yeah. That would be.
So we walk up to the desk and there's a really nice lady there. And she goes, so do you have family buried here? I said, yeah. She goes, what's his name? So I pull out that picture and show him that, or show her that. And she looks at it, she starts typing, and I'm holding my phone again. She goes, can I see that again? Like, yeah, sure. She looks at it, she goes, oh, okay. This comes back up way later, totally unrelated to the rest of the story I'm telling you, but she turned like really white for just a minute, and that's going to be the light thing that we ended on. So bookmark this, because it's going to get heavy in the middle.
Oh my gosh.
So she goes, okay, I'm going to go get some information. I'll be right back. And she's gone for like 5 minutes. She comes back with this whole folder. And she goes, so, who was this person to you? I said, oh, he was my grandma's cousin. And she goes, do you know how he died? And on this card, it has his date of death listed as December 25th, 1944.
December 25th?
Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, judging by the dates, I would imagine it was probably the Battle of the Bulge, which started mid-December and went to mid-January. And it was like, the Battle of the Bulge was kind of after Europe was starting to be liberated, the German forces were being pushed back. The Germans do this campaign back into Europe. It was like their last ditch effort, And she comes back. Actually, she asked me that before she went. She comes back and she goes, so I don't think that your family member died in the Battle of the Bulge. She goes, but he likely died at sea, and it was probably pretty horrific.
Oh?
She introduces herself too. First I go up to the desk right too, and I'm like, oh, bonjour. She says bonjour back. I looked at her, I'm like, do you speak English? She goes, this is the American cemetery. Yes, I speak English. I was like, okay. So she introduces herself. She goes, my name is really Mathilde, cute. Like Matilda, but without the A.
Mathilde.
She was wonderful.
Shout out.
And like everyone was just they talk slowly, peacefully, very friendly, because they know it's, people are coming to.
It's a hard place to be.
So she says, okay, so if you're comfortable with it, what we would like to do is do a ceremony for your loved one.
Oh.
I was like, oh, now I'm like.
Now you feel very imposter?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I was like, we have a tour. Is it something that takes too long? Like, I didn't even know him that well. She goes, this is something you don't want to miss.
Oh.
Julia was like, I think I'm going to hang back. I looked at him like, you knew him as well as I did. You're coming with me.
Exactly. Well, she was trying to be respectful.
Absolutely. So then they walk us into a private entrance into the cemetery. Yeah. And we're walking with her, and she's kind of explaining how everyone's set up. So their stones do have names carved into them, but it's hard to see. And everyone's buried very randomly because it's supposed to be like nobody is different than the other once they've given their life.
Okay.
And she says, there's 9,500 people here. There's also about 1,100 people on the wall of the missing.
Mm-mm.
Like either they have some of their remains and haven't been able to identify them, or their remains haven't been found.
The wall of the missing. That's so sad.
We're walking, and she goes, so we're getting sort of close to where John's buried. She goes, and he's actually in really good company here. I said, what do you mean by that? So in his like square area, because it's kind of set up in like squares, are the Nyland brothers, who are the brothers that the movie Saving Private Ryan was loosely based on. Probably two of the most famous graves there, about 5 rows up from him, and one of 4 females. So this part was also roped off because like she said something like the grass wasn't holding, so people think that they can't go in there, but you can. So she steps on the rope, we cross over. She's showing us like how they kind of hid the markers and how to find the graves. So we walk up there, and the whole time, by the way, she's carrying a bucket.
Okay.
So I'd like to explain to you, here's his stone, and it says John McGowan, Private John McGowan, 66th Infantry. And she goes, I'm going to explain the ceremony, and then I'd, like to have you do it. And she goes, so what we do is we go and get sand from Omaha Beach.
Okay.
Which is the beach, where D-Day happened. She said, this is where the Americans. The bucket? Yep. And so you can see down onto the beach. And this is what we do is you take the sand and you rub it on the stone so it fills in all the carved names. So it becomes very visible until this rain comes and washes the sand back down to the beach. So for some time you're commemorating him. You're bringing visibility to the stone. And then she said she has 2 flags, an American flag and a French flag. You put the American flag on the left side of it that points towards the beach to show how the Americans came from there to help win the war. And then the French flag to the right side to show like, hey, it points to the French where we came together to fight this off. So we do that. We wipe the sand on there, put the flags out. And she's like, I'll kind of give you a minute. And me and Julia are standing there. I don't know if I need the whole minute, like, thank you, but this is really cool. And she starts to kind of put together at that point that it's not like a very close person to us, so
I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't know what the fuck is going on because there are orbs being everywhere. I keep seeing by you. I keep seeing behind me. I don't know who be here. What are you doing right now?
I'm just going to keep telling you the story. Okay.
Why are they here?
Julia has pictures and videos of all this, by the way. And it was really emotional. Just not even one. It was bringing attention to a name who, he likely hasn't been directly visited before.
I was just going to say that. You could have been the first person.
I very well could have. And just being in this place, you're seeing just how much loss of life there was, and this is the only 9,400 really people. Sad. Like there were so many more. And so she goes, do you have some more time? I'd like to show you something. And we're like, yeah. So she goes, okay, so follow me. And we're walking with her. And I looked at her, I'm like, you have to have one of the coolest jobs in the world. And so she starts telling us about, she gets to do this 3 or 4 times a day. And that one of the best parts of her job is helping to identify the bodies on the wall of the missing. So they do like years and years of research on them to make sure they have a 99% match. Then they go and they exhume the body, test that body, and are able to rebury them and give them a stone.
I just literally busted open my shirt.
Apparently so. Yeah. She just leaned back and
I'm like, because I'm like, okay. My eyes are water. I'm crying. There's orbs fucking everywhere. And I guess I had to flash you.
Hey, Kara, have you ever wanted to take your spiritual practice to the next level?
Oh, absolutely. And if you're looking for something that feels truly magical and not mass produced, you have to check out My Mystical Forest.
My Mystical Forest is like stepping into your own enchanted sanctuary. They offer handmade spiritual tools crafted with care, intention, and so much heart.
We're talking tarot card holders that make your readings feel elevated, pendulum boards that bring clarity, and spirit boards to deepen your connection.
And don't forget the incense burners to set the perfect vibe, plus crystal trays to arrange and organize all your favorite stones. Everything is a labor of love made from hand-selected hardwoods.
Whether you're a seasoned spiritual practitioner or just starting your journey, My Mystical Forest has the tools to empower and inspire.
Unlock the magic for yourself and seek harmony. Visit mymysticalforest.etsy.com. That's M-I Mystical Forest, and find the heirloom quality pieces that speak to your soul.
Also, for our little oddballs, for a limited time, enter code ODDBALL at checkout to receive 10% off plus a free pendulum, or simply use the link down in the show notes.
Goodbye. So anyways, we're telling her about us. She's telling her about her, we're learning about each other. Matilda's great. And we're walking over. So she goes, this is the wall of the missing. She goes, I want to point something out. And this is where the 1,100 names are of the people they're still trying to identify. Right. She goes, because they have their remains.
Okay.
Some they do, some they don't. And they're either trying to find them or identify the remains. So she said, look around this wall for a minute and just, tell me what you see.
Oh, no.
I said, there's a lot of them are the 66th Battalion, which is what John was a part of. And she said, it's very rare, not only that he was buried around such good company, she said, but that your family member was from this division, the 66th Infantry, and has a stone. So I looked at her and I said, okay, do you know what happened? Like you said, I know you said it was pretty horrific, and it sounded like she didn't want to talk about it in that office.
Yeah.
And so she goes, again, she said it was pretty awful. And all she really said is that he was on a ship, and that ship got hit by a torpedo from a German U-boat.
Oh.
It was after the war was winding down on Christmas. And in this event, most of the 66th Infantry was lost. And because of the way they were lost, most of their remains were never found. And that's when we're looking at the wall of the missing, and you see just over a third of them are all from this one incident.
Oh.
So it was 493 of the 1,100 names.
Wow.
And, these people are now the families are thinking their kids are coming home soon. And they get notified right around Christmas that.
Stop it. I have goosebumps.
Boat mishap. You know me. I'm like, I have to know about this. So I start researching it. Oh, she did also say that the name of the ship was the Leopoldville.
Leopoldville. Okay.
Yes. I start researching on the way home and everything else. So here's the story. The 66th Infantry Division was a unit of the U.S. Army, and they arrived in Dorchester, England on November 26, 1944, with some of the rest of the division coming in December 12th. So between the end of November, beginning of December, they trained, they prepare for deployment. And on December 24th, they were supposed to be transferred from Southampton, England, across the English Channel to Cherbourg, France.
Okay.
There were two transport vessels that they were loaded onto. One, the SS Cheshire, and the other one was a Belgian ship called the Leopoldville.
Okay.
So their primary objective was to destroy the remaining German troops left over in port cities in Western France as the German troops are retreating. So it was like the cleanup crew, sort of.
Yeah.
So the 66th Infantry was split into one of those two boats, and John McGowan, my grandmother's cousin, and about 2,200 others were led onto the Leopoldville. History on the ship. The SS Leopoldville was a passenger liner originally that carried people between Belgium and the Congo, because the Congo at that point was a colony of Belgium.
Okay.
Basically slaves. Let's be for real. The ship was 478 feet long. It was built in 1929. And during the war, in May of 1940, she was converted to be a troop ship after the Germans invade Belgium and they become involved in the war.
Okay.
So it makes tons of treks during the war back and forth. It's not really meant for the colder parts of the ocean because it was going to Africa. She took some damage each time. And all in all, she did transport 124,220 troops.
Oh, wow.
And was at Normandy on D-Day.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very...
She's seen it.
Yeah. So going back then to the 66th Infantry, basically they would have been on the ship heading towards the Battle of the Bulge and then becoming the cleanup crew. So there were reinforcements late in the war. And the 66th Infantry, when those who made it to the land, were really successful and actually had very few casualties other than getting into the war. So they were harassing German installations, conducting limited objective attacks, and then running recon missions and gathering intelligence. But the Leopoldville, right? So what kind of happened here? So it's going from Southampton, England to Cherbourg, France, like we said, on Christmas Eve. Troops are loaded really hastily into the ship. The crew, though, is mostly Belgian or Belgian Congo, and they only speak Flemish.
Okay.
It was captained by Captain Charles Limbour, who spoke no English. There was a safety meeting that was rushed, and there were not enough life jackets on board nor lifeboats.
Okay.
And the reason they kind of rushed the
safety.
Yeah, the safety of how to get into the lifeboats and everything is because all these troops were really pissed off about getting loaded into a ship on 9 a.m. on Christmas Eve. So it begins to make its way across the English Channel. They're in a diamond formation with 4 other ships. So there are 3 other ships making a diamond of 4.
Yep. Okay.
2 destroyers, the HMS Brilliant and HMS Anthony. These are English ships.
Okay.
And then there was a British frigate, which is just like a supply ship.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we in this formation? Do you know?
That I don't know.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a visual.
Yeah. So they're making their way across and about 5 miles from the coast of Cherbourg. So they've already made it across the channel. They're very close to where they're going. At 5:56 p.m., German U-boat number 486 sees the incoming formation, fires 2 torpedoes, and one strikes the starboard side of the Leopoldville, resulting in an explosion in the number 4 hold that immediately kills about 300 men. So the crew spring into action, and they start giving orders on abandoning the ship.
Okay.
However, remember, the crew doesn't speak English, and the orders are only given in Flemish.
Oh.
The troops do see the crew leave, but it wasn't sinking very quickly. So not understanding what was happening, being so close to the shore, they thought that the crew was going to go get a tugboat to tow them into shore. Only a handful of the troops actually get off with the lifeboats. Most of the rest of the formation they've been traveling with, they take off to try to chase down the U-boat.
Oh my God.
So this is when the troops on board start to realize that things are not going very well and that the ship is sinking, and it's sinking quickly.
Yeah.
The waters are also very rough in this part of the channel. The HMS Brilliant, the British ship, though, does kind of realize what's happening, and they stay behind to help. So they pull up alongside the sinking ship. It gets really bad from here. So I found a write-up from a gentleman named Jack Dixon. He was a 21-year-old seaman. He was on board the HMS Brilliant. And he was one of the crew members that battled against the condition to try to rescue as many of the soldiers as possible. And here's what's on his website. The HMS Brilliant went alongside the port side of the troop ship, and we had our starboard fenders over the side. The sea swell was causing a rise and fall of 8 to 12 feet. The scrambling nets were hanging down the Leopold's port side, and U.S. soldiers were coming down onto our upper deck. As the seas got rough, some of the men had to jump down from a height. The waters that evening were rough and cold, and the Leopoldville sat much higher in the water than the Brilliant. As the swells came up, what would be a 6 to 20 feet jump quickly became a 40-foot jump. Unfortunately, limbs were being broken when they landed on the torpedo tubes and other fixed equipment on the starboard side of the upper deck. Most who landed in the water were unfortunately crushed between the hulls of the two ships as they crashed into each other.
Oh.
To avoid any further injuries, if possible, all of our hammocks were brought up from the mess decks below and laid on the starboard side upper deck to cushion the fall of the soldiers as they landed. The HMS Brilliant and the Leopoldville were sending out distress signals, but the rest of the escort had gone too far to see that as they were chasing down the U-boat.
Oh my God.
It took nearly an hour for the shore to realize the Leopoldville was sinking. There were several hundred Allied ship vessels in the harbor at Cherbourg that could have come to save them.
Oh my God.
Had it not been the evening of Christmas Eve, they all had cold engines and they were all celebrating off the ship.
Oh my God.
Not only were the engines cold, but the torpedo took out communications on the Leopoldville.
Mm-hmm.
So the English ship was on a different frequency than the American ships they were trying to reach.
Oh my God.
The Brilliant had to contact Portsmouth, which telephoned Cherbourg, and then they tried to get ships to come to the rescue. So it was super, super delayed.
This is so awful.
I know. So approximately 2.5 hours after being hit, the Leopoldville completely goes underwater.
Oh, I'm gonna start crying. Also, I still don't know what's going on behind me.
It's not somebody I knew, but it's a family member.
Well, that's why I feel like because it's your family. It's like,
it's just, and you know of how horrible World War II is. And I don't know why it took it putting into perspective of a bloodline to like really drive that home.
Oh my God.
So of the 2,200 servicemen on board, 763 pass away on Christmas Eve.
Oh my God.
505 on board, either to the explosion who went down, 248 from injuries, hypothermia, or drowning. And the 493 names on the wall of the missing are from those who were never recovered from the 48-degree water.
Oh my God, I am like crying.
Yeah. Captain Charles Limbour and 3 of the Congolese crew members do go down with the ship. And actually, there's some rumors that Charles Limbour was trying to, he passed maybe helping try to pull some of the bodies out of the water.
Oh.
So the cemetery is part of the American Battle Monuments Commission, and they have this on their website. So on Christmas Eve, 1944, a disaster happened in the Channel Sea not far from Cherbourg. More than 2,000 American service members from the 262nd and 264th Regiments, 66th Infantry Division were aboard the troopship SS Leopoldville when it was torpedoed by a German U-boat and sank in the cold waters. Approximately 800 service members were killed that day and 500 were never recovered. They are remembered at the Normandy American Cemetery's tablets of the missing. The cemetery only contains 77 gravestones of members from the 66th.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because she was like, it's rare for your uncle, or what is he, grandma's cousin?
I know it's my mom's second cousin. I think it would be my second once removed, if I'm correct.
Well, your relative. Right. She said it was rare that your relative was like buried or whatever. Is that just because everybody else was like...
Because very few bodies were able to be identified or found.
Yeah, okay.
Which is actually my next line about Matilda telling us it was rare. Now, we know of this story today. However, at the time this occurred, the English and British government go straight into secrecy.
Oh.
So authorities classified the incident as confidential to protect troop morale during the Battle of the Bulge. Families were only told that their loved ones died in action. The reasons for the secrecy, one is the morale. It was a critical turning point during the war. High U.S. casualties were already there, and coming from basically negligent and logistic failures would not have been a good look.
Right.
They thought because there was miscommunication between British and American forces that it might damage relations.
Mm-hmm.
And it was military failures. It was an untrained crew with not enough lifeboats for the troops they put on there and failed rescue efforts. So basically Christmas, tail end of the war, families expecting their loved ones to come home just get absolutely devastating news. It was not until 1996 that this was declassified.
Oh, shit.
So thankfully then some books have come out and a lot of memorials have been put up for the Leopoldville.
1996?
Yeah. It is one of the worst maritime disasters involving U.S. troops of any time ever.
Oh my God.
It took over 70 years before most families learned the full story of what happened to their loved ones.
That is fucked up.
So this would mean that my mother's great Aunt Lily and great Uncle William likely never knew the fate of their son.
Yeah.
So honestly, like learning about that, first of all, it's just so weird. The pieces fit together. I booked this randomly. It happened to end at that place. Mom happened to find this card on Ancestry.
Yeah, how weird.
The other thing that's strange to me is why have I always been drawn to
shipwrecks? So
it seemed like one of those things where everything really came together, and it was such a cool honor in retrospect to be able to share his story.
Yeah.
You know, especially since his parents never knew.
No.
And to learn about it and to be able to do the ceremony to honor him, it's like the least I could do to, you know, honor the sacrifice he made. It's honestly been super emotional.
I've been crying this whole time. So
I did talk to Mom before deciding to write this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my grandma would have grown up with John.
Yeah.
My mom she remembers going to Lily and, you know, Aunt Lily and Uncle William's house. Like, it's not like this is...
It's not that far removed.
No. So we talked about this and she said, you know, it doesn't feel... She said everything happens for a reason. It doesn't feel like it was just by chance.
No.
And so it was like... And the tour guide too, earlier, I was like, hey, I'm just going to walk around. Had I done that, I would have never learned the story. Like, he's like, no, you have to go to that building.
Yes, make sure you go to that building.
It was just
that was like very
fate
good.
Or John, like something had a hand in wanting the story to be told.
I have goosebumps.
So I did want to do it. I wanted to do it with respect. But I also think, you know, it's an interesting failure of some of the terrible parts of war that weren't in direct battle. So with that, do you want to learn a little bit more about John? Because we found some stuff at the cemetery in the packet they gave us. Mom had some stuff online. ChatGPT was actually able to pull some stuff.
I'm gonna fucking cry. I don't think I can take it.
I know. Honestly, I feel you. So from what we could put together, so he was 2 years older than my grandma. And like I said, they would have grown up together. He was born in Romulus, Michigan on September 28th, 1926. To William and Lily.
So how old?
18. Which, most of the boys from World War II were between 16 to 18. So many of them lied about their age to enlist that they were even younger.
Oh my God, 18.
So his father, William was from Scotland. Lily was from Canada originally. Father was an auto factory worker and a crane operator. His mom was a homemaker. And John was their only child.
Oh my God.
He grew up in Redford,
Stop breaking my heart.
Grew up in Redford outside of Detroit. He did graduate high school. And now this is one of the cool things is, and Matilde showed us this on his stone with his number, is he wasn't drafted for the war. He actually chose to enlist. Which is,
That's even sadder.
But it's amazing that he decided to make the sacrifice for his country because so many people, World War II, so many were drafted, you know. So by his number, we do know that he enlisted out of the Army on May 9th, 1944, so already into the war. And the U.S. entered World War II. The D-Day invasion happened on June 6th. So he knew we were entering the war. He enlisted from Michigan and would have been stationed at Fort Sheridan in Illinois, where he held the rank of private. And then we do know his death date is December 25th, 1944. Because of his service and his sacrifice, Private McGowan was posthumously awarded several commendations, including a Purple Heart, a World War II Victory Medal, Combat Infantryman Badge, American Campaign Medal, and the Army Presidential Unit Citation. So he's now, like I said, he's interred at the Normandy American Cemetery in Colleville-sur-Mer, France, specifically Plot F, Row 19, grave number 12. That's the story about my family member, John McGowan.
Wow, I'm like, really? So, that's so sad. I hate you. Did his family, though, get his Purple Heart and all his medals and awards?
So this is what we don't know.
That's so sad.
So William, on that temporary card that I have, William was listed as the next of kin, so he likely had it. But in that packet, they gave us all this information on where we can go to look up more information.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we're going to do that. And Matilda said, if you find anything, share it with us.
Yeah.
And we'll add him to the tours.
Oh.
So if you give the background information so his legacy can live on a bit. So we're going to do that. Yep.
Oh my God. I can't stop.
Yeah. So when she kept just saying it was pretty horrific and given a little bit of the details, the crazy thing was too, this is how well these people at the cemetery knew. She didn't look any of this up. She knew. And probably because, there's 500 people on that wall. So I told you I would end it a little bit lighter. I know. I see your eyes. When I first handed her my phone, I told you she looked at it, handed it back, looked at it again, and it just had a very strange look on her face.
Okay.
So
explain to me, Matilda. How old do you think she is?
So Matilda's probably about our age.
Okay,
she has
that's what I was thinking.
Red hair. She's very sweet.
Okay.
She was very reserved until she kind of realized that it wasn't going to be a very emotional thing for us.
Okay.
And then she started telling us, so this is her summer job. Then she teaches school. Okay. She's like a tutor, basically. Not a tutor, but a like private teacher for one-on-one students. Okay. And she's like, I have the best job in the world. That she was telling us about how she does 3 or 4 of these tours a day in the off season. She gets to help with the identifying of the bodies, and she's been there when like the Secret Service and the presidents come through. Like, she's just so proud of what she did. And it was cool because we got her talking. Of course, me, we're walking.
How do you get that job?
I don't know. We're walking though. I have to ask her, I'm like, okay, so does anything strange happen here? She looks at me, she goes, I don't I've been told we have pretty quiet neighbors around us, but she said, there's some whispers. So anyways, on the bottom of that temporary card, it says next of kin, William McGowan. At the top, it says John McGowan. But if you look at it really quickly, it's plot number and then the name, it looks like it's William McGowan. So when we're standing at the wall of the missing, she goes, so I have to apologize for my reaction at first.
Gotcha. Okay.
I started to get very excited.
Oh, she thought she solved it.
She's pointing out, so on that wall, at the end of their name, if they have this medallion,
okay,
those are the people who were originally on the wall whose remains have been identified. Okay. And the remains of a William McGowan had been identified 2 weeks prior, and she thought that we were coming. She was like, I thought at first when I looked at that, I saw William McGowan stick out to me, and she goes, we just identified and you just show up.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right. So she was like really excited about that for a minute. Then Julia had asked something along the lines of like, how do these bodies just kind of, she goes, well, sometimes they're buried there already, and they're in like the unknown part of the cemetery without stones. And because of all the family DNA stuff and everything else going on, they'll research it for years. She said, until we know for 99% sure, we can't do anything. When we're at 99%, they'll exhume the bodies and test. She said, or sometimes bodies are still found because, sometimes people in France during COVID decide to renovate their garden and dig up an entire plane with a body still in it.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, it's just wild. That was the whole thing to me. It's one thing to learn about World War II and, it happened in France and all over, and it's another thing to just stand there in the places where it happened. And it was just mind blowing. Oh my God. Okay. So Zachary, why do we have orbs and weird things all around us right now? That I'm not sure of. Like I said, I felt like it was a little bit fated to tell the story the way all things came together. I don't know if somebody guided my hand at all in it. I'm not going to claim that, but it has been a very strange feeling while writing this, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. Anyways, that's the story of the insane experience that I was not expecting to get from the Normandy tour, and the story of the SS Leopoldville and my family member, John McGowan. So I hope I did his story justice, and I hope that other people can either learn something from it or remember his name. Because I think now on Christmas, it's definitely something I'm going to have to do a little ritual for. And he's going to go up on my family member altar as well. Stop crying, Kara.
I am literally like blubbering like a baby. Oh my God. I can't.
It's just incredible, isn't it? Like, and
it's just so sad, but also it's so weird.
I know.
Not weird, but like just how it all happened. Like
how it all happened. And like, for some reason, I've always been drawn to stories of shipwrecks. You know, maybe there's some ancestral part of that there. But yeah.
That is very cool. That's really cool.
It was definitely, and not selfishly for me, it was just an amazing experience to be able to do that for him. So that's why I talked to Mom and I said, hey, you know, I want to write an episode about it, not to make a big deal about the story or anything, but just to show
but that is
how
really
devastating it was and how the cover up and everything else, like,
well, just the events that led you there is just like, how do you not tell that story?
Like how since then too, I've been on such a World War II kick. I'm like listening to podcasts and YouTubes and everything, and it's just,
I can't do it. It just really makes me sick. I
think it's important to remember though, because history is doomed to repeat itself. And I think there's so many less survivors from World War II and veterans that it's easy to forget how hard people fought for the freedoms we had.
You're right.
And how quickly people have come to power and were able to change the world, not for the good. So important to remember those things. And with that,
now we have influencers.
There we go. Right. Okay, so something good that happened to you this week, because we need to lighten this up.
I don't have anything good. This was so sad. I'm very, very, very curious as to who the fuck is here right now. Because I don't know if you were seeing every orb that was around me and then there was a ton behind you, but that never happens when recording.
It's happened a handful of times that we've been shocked by it before, that it's not like something we haven't noticed.
But not as much as what was just fucking happening while we were just recording now. No. That was so weird. And normally I see them behind you. I don't ever see them by me. And I just kept seeing weird light flashes and then a ton of like weird little orbs around me.
I think that's the part of when you're talking about the ancestry. It's so powerful how those
it is. But now I'm freaking out.
Members and guides come through.
Why are they here?
Probably just have to wrap it up and have a little conversation with them. Maybe you have a story you need to tell.
I was just thinking, like, did I have somebody on that ship? How fucking weird would that be?
That would be very strange.
Dude.
We'll have to do some digging.
Oh my God. All right. I cannot stop crying.
So the emoji for this episode.
A ship?
I don't want to do that. I think not a gravestone and a flower.
Not to be morbid, but a gravestone is just nice. Okay.
Or an American flag and a French flag.
Oh my God.
There we go.
Mess.
I know. Kara's trying to pull it together. So
you
friends,
just put tears.
Here's the ask for this week, and we could always do a special episode about this. But if you have a family member that you'd want to honor with their story,
oh my God,
we would love to have you write it in. And you know, it's that whole thing of you die twice, right? When you pass, and when people say your name for the last time. So if you have some ancestors' stories you want to share, send them to us, and we would love to do an episode honoring your loved ones.
Yeah, even if it's not like a war story or anything. Like anything. Oh my God. Tell me about your grandma.
We talk about so many things like this without being connected to it and without some of the emotion and to the ghosts, you know, and it's easy to forget the people that they were. So want to give back to the people they were. Kara is bawling again. So
can't even do this.
We're going to close the shop up. I'm so sorry I made you cry. We love you.
Oh, we do so much.
Hug your family hard. And do you want to say the magic words, or do you need me to help you out this time around?
Oh my God. The most important thing you could do for us is to creep it really eyeballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.